What if I told you one of the funniest shows ever made is also one of the most honest portrayals of grief, failure, burnout, and becoming an adult? Not a prestige HBO drama, not an Emmy sweeping phenomenon, but a goofy hospital comedy that I call Scrubs.
There was your camera, aren't you gonna take some pictures?
Pictures of what?
You know, crying babies covered in chocolate, people singing happy birthday to my son who've never even met him before, you know, the whole routine.
Where do you think we are?
Your name is the splinter inside me while I wait.
And by the end of this video, I'm going to argue something bold. Scrubs isn't just good, it's one of the greatest television shows ever made. The show that tricks you. When Scrubs premiered in 2001, medical TV meant one thing: intensity. You had ER, which represents chaos, handheld cameras, and adrenaline. Then you also had Grey's Anatomy, which came with a lot of romance, catastrophes, emotional devastations on steroids, and of course we don't forget about House. House was genius, with a lot of cynicism and diagnostic puzzles. Then Scrubs showed up. Bright colors, fantasy cutaways, a narrator who daydreamed about dancing surgeons. It looked unserious, it looked lightweight, but that was the trick to it. Because underneath the slapstick and absurdity, Scrubs was doing something none of those shows were doing. It was showing you what it feels like to grow up. The genius of tonal whiplash. Scrubs mastered something almost no show can pull off: emotional whiplash. You're laughing at a ridiculous fantasy sequence, and then someone dies. Not dramatically, not heroically, just dies. And that shifts. That sudden drop from absurdity to silence, that's not a gimmick, that's medicine. Doctors use humor to survive trauma. Scrubs uses humor to prepare you for it. No other medical show lives in both worlds like this. ER stays dramatic. Grey's Anatomy escalates into spectacle, and House intellectualizes suffering. And Scrubs? Scrubs destabilizes you, and that destabilization makes the emotional hits land harder. Where do you think we are? Let's talk about one of the greatest half hours in network television history. My screw up. Dr. Cox spends the episode interacting with his brother-in-law, Ben. They joke, they banter, it's warm, and then at the end, they're standing at a funeral. JD looks at Cox and says, "Where do you think we are?" And suddenly you realize Ben had been dead the entire episode. Cox has been hallucinating him. There's no swelling music, no slow motion collapse, just realization. And that twist works because the entire episode structurally embodies denial. You weren't just watching Cox avoid grief, you were actually avoiding it with him. That's not a sitcom writing, that's psychology storytelling at this point. The most devastating episode you forgot probably. Season 5, My Lunch. Dr. Cox transplants organs into 3 patients. The donor had rabies. All 3 die. No plane crash, no shooter, no disaster. Just bad luck, medical randomness. And Cox breaks. He drinks, he withdraws, and he can't look at patients. And here's why this matters. In Grey's Anatomy, tragedy is spectacle. In ER, tragedy is systematic pressure. But in Scrubs, tragedy is personal failure, even when it's not your fault. That episode does not ask, can the hospital survive this? It asks, can you survive believing you failed? That's a moral injury at that point. And Scrubs portrayed it with more honesty than most prestigious dramas out there. JD is not a genius. House is brilliant. Meredith Grey survives everything. ER doctors are hyper competent under pressure. And JD, he's insecure, he wants approval, he overthinks everything, and basically he's normal. And that's why his arc matters. Over 8 seasons, we literally watch him go through failure, regress, grow, fail again, mature. Every single emotion you can think of, he went through. His fantasy sequences slowly becomes less frequent, and that's not random too. That's psychological evolution. He needs fantasy less because he needs validations less. And by season 8, he's mentoring intern. He's become the stability he once sought. And that's not static sitcom writing. That's longitudinal character design. Dr. Cox, the real masterpiece. Dr. Perry Cox might be one of the best written characters in television history. He starts as a tyrant, sarcastic, cruel, explosive, but over time you see the cracks. Abusive father, fear of vulnerability, alcohol relapse, and his entire identity is built on competence. So when patients die in My Lunch, his identity shatters. And here's the brilliance. The show does not fix him in one episode. Recovery is gradual. By the end of the series, when he becomes the chief of medicine, he's not softer, he's actually deeper. That growth without losing essence, very few shows can pull that off at the end of the day. Marriage that doesn't reset. Turk and Carla, one of the healthiest marriages on TV. They fight, they get jealous, they struggle with parenthood, but their conflicts accumulate. They don't reset for the next episode. That's rare in network comedy. Scrubs lets consequences linger, which means relationships evolve, and which means time also matters. And the finale that understood life, my finale. JD walks down a hospital hallway. A sheet drops. You see projected images of his imaged future. Marriage, kids, friendship. It's not guaranteed, but it's hope. And that's what makes it powerful. The show doesn't promise perfection. It promises possibilities. And that finale shot, JD actually stepping towards the projection, that's adulthood walking into uncertainty basically. And why Scrubs aged better than its peers? Here's the truth. Spectacle ages, shock value fades, twists get spoiled, but growth ages beautifully. Scrubs isn't about big events, it's about becoming. That's why when you rewatch it as an adult, it hits you differently. The jokes are still funny, but the grief feels heavier. The burnout feels real, and the insecurity feels familiar. But the grief feels heavier, the burnout feels real, and the insecurity feels familiar. It grows with you basically. And now it's coming back. I am so excited for it. It's literally coming back today. The day I am actually shooting this video. I don't know when this video is gonna be coming out on the channel. You'll see it at some point. But today is gonna be Scrubs coming back, and I'm gonna be watching it tonight. Woo! Here's the wild part. Scrubs is officially being revived at ABC with creator Bill Lawrence attached. And this isn't just nostalgia bait. Think about it. Post-pandemic world, the medical burnout, all of the mental health conversations. Scrubs was already about moral injury before we had the language for it. And if the reboot keeps the tonal hybridity, the emotional honesty, and the character growth, it won't just revisit Sacred Heart. It'll be more relevant than ever. So let's compare. ER shows you the system. Grey's shows you the drama. House shows you the genius. Scrubs shows you the growth. It's about failing and trying again, losing patience and staying anyway, being insecure and becoming steady, laughing because otherwise you'd cry. It disguised existential philosophy as a hospital comedy. And maybe that's why it's worked. Because life at the end of the day is absurd and painful and funny and devastating, and sometimes all of them at the same time in 5 minutes. Just like Scrubs. Sacred Heart wasn't just a hospital, it was a place where people learned who they were, basically, and maybe so did we. So don't forget to like this video, guys, subscribe to your boy's channel, comment down below your favorite episode from Scrubs, and let's talk it out. And on that note, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.